I thank you for sitting down with me.
Of course.
This has been long anticipated. Before we get into it, what is the science behind when you get to a certain age, your neck and your back and your knees?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out too, so hopefully it don't happen to me.
Okay, because I'm like, bro, we ain't gonna speak about certain ages, but when
it's
you get
coming,
to certain,
huh?
what? I'm like, why is my knees?
You can't move like you used to,
Man, what? Almost passed out. My kid, I teach, so my students was like, let's play house or horse or whatever it is. I was like, all right, man. I want to sit down. I was like, hold up, bro.
You like, this is not real.
It's not. Yes, like I just knew I had a couple more strides.
Nah, you don't.
No,
you don't.
Ain't no more strides.
Nah, they all done.
Yes. So this is Give It to 'em Raw podcast, where we say the stuff you people scared to say, and if you feel played, as always, debate your mom. That's the only person that's gonna help you with this. All right, so I have a super special guest with me. Introduce yourself to the people. Tell them who you are.
Yeah, my name is Dr. Russell Ledet, hailing from here in New Orleans, but moving to Indiana soon. I'm sure we'll get into it at some point.
Listen, we need you here.
I know.
We need you here.
I kind of wanted to be here, but that's another conversation.
Yes, I was like, so how does that, I know you were super excited when you found out that you were moving to Indiana, but it was bittersweet, yes?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I understood that, everything works in perfect timing. So, right now, yeah, I'm not here, but I am here. Like, I'm still doing work with the 15 White Coats. We gonna always do good work.
Right.
And so I still have a presence here in New Orleans, but I'm not training here. And that's for a myriad of different reasons, some of which I don't want to say because I don't want to get fired. But.
Okay, no. Like, man, listen, we just got you in here.
Yeah.
Wait a little while.
Yeah, but, it's up to me, but it's not up to me. Some things are out of my control.
Right.
So you move where you need to be.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. So let's just go down a little bit from the start to finish. We don't have to go through every detail. But at the moment that you were like, okay, maybe a doctor is what I'm going to go ahead and pursue. Because as, being black African Americans, we dream a lot, know, and we don't always get to the point where we execute that dream. But you did that. So tell us, like, how did that come about? Who inspired you? Who influenced you?
Yeah. I think, when I was much younger, my grandmother was very sick. So there was always this idea that one day I'd be able to take care of her a little bit. I didn't go as far as thinking I could become a physician because that was kind of far-fetched, especially coming from where I come from. But then, fast forward to around 2009, I was just coming off of active duty in the United States Navy, and I had to get a job. My wife and I just bought our first house and got to pay the bills. So I was working as a security guard, but also going to college at Southern University in Baton Rouge. And, you're working in a hospital as a security guard and you see all these doctors taking care of all these patients. And I started just dreaming, like you were talking about. I just started dreaming about what if I became a doctor. And it wasn't like a perfect transition because I was a security guard. So on the outside, you can't really see like my drive and my hunger and like what I really want out of life. All you can see is that I'm a security guard. So I literally just tweeted today because I got my graduation photos that like security guards don't become doctors. And I always remember that because so many doctors told me like, nah, you can't shadow me, you can't intern with me, whatever.
Wow.
Because security guards don't become doctors.
Look at it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I think I kind of just held that on my shoulders, but there was a doctor. He actually here in New Orleans. He's a trauma surgeon who was like, "Nah, yo, you can shadow with me," and that really changed the game. He really gave me a shot, and although I didn't go straight to medical school, I went to go get my PhD first. I got an opportunity to come back to New Orleans for medical school and business school at the Freeman School of Business, and really took it, and now I'm here. So I don't know if it was. Usually there are these really quaint dreams of people saying, oh, I've been wanting to be a doctor all my life. Now, I kind of just figured this out along the way and decided like, oh, I guess I'm going to become a doctor because it seemed like something really cool to do. Yeah. And now it's a passion of mine because, mental health in black kids is really something I'm going to stick with for the rest of my life. So,
Did you have any idea of what particular field you wanted to go into, or you just was like?
Yeah, I think coming out of coming out of my PhD, because my background was in cancer biology, I was like, oh, I'll become a radiation oncologist and really work with cancer patients who don't have too many other options.
Right.
And I think what happened was I met this psychiatrist here, a guy by the name of Mio Mient, and he really, he gave me an opportunity to see a young black boy from New Orleans who was being managed, and it really changed the game for me. Just because of the interaction me and the little boy had. Right. And from then on, I was like, oh, I'm going to become a child psychiatrist, because I needed this when I was a child. Like, I needed somebody to check on my mental wellness and mental health when I was a child. And my mom was too busy. She was a single mother raising 2 kids, and she didn't really had a space or time or energy to really, really do everything she probably wanted to do. Right. So I decided that I was going to do that.
Yes, I'm so proud. You literally, like, the last IG post, like, and that's from, like, the beginning to the IG post you just put up. Yeah. I was just crying. I'm like, I don't even know this person. Why am I crying, Jesus? Because it just was it was, like, just so dope to see. And the field that you decided to take, like, what do you think that you're noticing now versus before, when you didn't have all of the medical, training and everything? Like, what did you, even in yourself or even in your childhood, things that you noticed about people around you that you're like, oh, dang, that's what that was? Or, like, being able to label what certain things are now.
Yeah, I think one thing that I pay attention to a lot is that people pay a lot of attention and invest a lot of energy in other people. And they do that because they don't want to deal with their own things.
Facts.
So, they'll sit there and spend so much time labeling other people, describing other people, figuring out other people's issues, worrying about other people's problems. And they're not even dealing with their own internal issues. And that's really it really comes from a place of sometimes being unaware and also being ill-equipped to deal with self issues. Because, if you think about it, like, if everybody had the ability to really hone in and focus in on their own issues, and they had the wherewithal and the will and resources, we'd be all right. But I think for me now, it's just like getting people out of this mindset that it's about everybody. And helping them to realize that, like, nah, it's really about you.
Yeah, no, like, it start with you.
Yeah, it start with you. When you change, believe it or not, it's a whole lot of people around you that'll change.
Yes. And I don't know why people can't grasp that. Like, I mean, I ain't gonna say I don't know why. I'm seeing why, like, every day I'm noticing, like, dang, people really focus and are so tuned in with what you have going on. And it's just like, but why?
I think part of it is like, it's cool. I mean, you think about social media, people spend so much of their time worrying about what other people got going on in their life. That's why you got people with, like, billions of followers, but that's because everybody's interested in what's going on in their life.
Right.
They not even that interested in what's going on in their own life.
Man, talk about it. They ain't got nothing going on.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting, but I also understand it from the perspective of, like, sometimes dealing with your own issues is scary, because you don't know what road is going to take you down. I always talk about some of the trauma I dealt with as a child. It took me a while to get to a place to be like, all right, it's time for you to address this. Not point the finger at, like, what so-and-so did, what your family member didn't do, blah, 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 blah. Like, you going to deal with your own stuff. Right. You need to dig it up and deal with it on your own. And that's hard to do. It's some hard work.
Yeah, because I was going to say, did you start doing that once you began to practice, or was that something that you gradually were doing over the years? Like, self-reflecting?
I think it's a lot of it came from my relationship with my wife. I always used to compare, and I still do to some degree, like, look at her childhood growing up and just the way that she operates now as an adult, and I'm like, dang, those are things that that I need to do, and she had the freedom to do that, and she still does have that freedom to just readily deal with it. And I had to grow to that place. But I've been married for almost 16 years now, so I'm really at a place where I can learn from my wife as opposed to look at her as my competition, and that's a really hard thing for everybody to do. You look at anybody and you like, yo, the other podcast is my competition as opposed to not someone I can learn from. And so I've learned a great deal about how to address those things, really from watching my wife and paying attention and talking to her and growing from her. And that's kind of how I got there.
Yeah, and that's what I just was saying earlier. Like, if someone who looks like me wins, I feel like I won too.
Yeah, you did.
Like, and that's just how I've always felt. Like, switch it up a little bit, going back into the beginning of your career, did you ever have moments where you felt like people would question your expertise, or even like when you were trying to shadow doctors and stuff like that? Did you have a lot of backlash and, switching over careers?
Nah, I'm gonna tell you why I didn't, because I didn't care. Like, I think there are these people in the world who they don't really care what your opinion is. Like, you could have whatever, like, a lot of those people could have been like, yo, he begging, or like, why he don't go get it on his own, or blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yo, that's your opinion. I'm not about to take on the burden of what you think. That's for you to deal with. That's for you to sleep with at night. I'm just gonna keep trying, and that's all I really need to do. Eventually, I'm gonna get a break, and I just need one yes.
Yeah.
Because my drive gonna take me. That one yes, I'm not gonna blow it. I think if when you come from that perspective, you're not really paying too much attention to what people think of you and what they don't think of you. Some of the things that I've done since I've been in medical school weren't popular, but I don't really care. Because why would I care? Like, they don't fluff my pillow at night. They
not at all.
My wife and my kids still love me.
Okay.
So, and that's the things that I'm really striving to have in my life. And so you just kind of you can't worry about everybody's opinion. You run yourself wild.
Fact. And that's giving it something wrong, if you hear that. So do you psychoanalyze your wife?
Nah, I don't.
Okay, I was like, do you separate the two? I got to know. Okay.
Nah, I don't. I really separate the medicine from my household. Because when I'm at home, I just want to be known as dad, as hubby. Like, that's all I really want to be known as. It's such a time-consuming thing to do that you don't really have no room, to be a doctor at home.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? And not only that, but like, I like the idea of just being a regular person. Yes. The moment I'm not, in the hospital, or doing whatever, even heading into residency now, I'm just like, I'm always have that boundaries where it's like, when I'm at home and I'm dad, and to that point, it's funny, I never forget when I got my PhD, my wife was like, I'll never call you doctor. She was like, I will never call you doctor. I was like, dang.
Right, like, why?
And she was like, because at home, like, she was like, the whole world gonna call you that.
Right, facts.
She was like, at home, I need you to understand that, like, we don't need you to be a doctor at home.
Right.
We need you to be a husband. We need you to be a father. We need you to be a leader. We need you to be a comforter. We need you to be a listener.
You listening? Are you listening, black men? Sorry.
We need you to be a prayer warrior. Like, that's things that we need you to do at home that you're not going to do when you walk into the hospital. So, we need you to be those things at home. And when you walk out there, I need you to be a doctor because we need to get this checked.
Okay. Listen, how do you turn it off, though? Like, is it like, I know it's your, like, safe space, you decompress. Like, how do you turn it off? Because I'm sure you think about your patients, or, you have particular patients that things may not go, the way planned. So just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think the easiest way to do it is, like, it's the people at home. My daughters don't, they don't care. They like, you daddy at home. Okay. We don't want to hear none of that. It's like, we don't care how many Instagram followers you have or how many times you go on TV. Like, you daddy at home, Yeah. And obviously, my wife is like, don't none of that even. I'm not worried about none of that because if all of it go away, we still gotta cut these checks for the rent or the mortgage or whatever. So, I think the people at home force me to cut it off because, it's times when my wife will be like, "Nah, you need to put that phone down." Okay. Or we about to watch this Bel Air. Go cut an orange and leave that phone in the kitchen with you. Yes. I
like your wife.
Nah, she good people. And she keep me grounded. My kids keep me grounded. My family keeps me grounded. My wife's family.
Quick remind you are regular.
Yeah, you regular degular. And so it's easy.
That's good. So just going a little bit into the medicine, what's your take on like holistic versus medicine? Like, do you think about that? Does it ever come up in any conversations that? Okay, so what's you guys' take on holistic versus medicine?
Yeah, I don't think it's an either or. I think there's room for both of them in treating a patient. I do think that what happens is that people just get caught in their own cult. Like they get caught in their own cultish beliefs. And so, the holistic folks is like, nah, we ain't touching no vaccinations and we ain't doing this and we ain't doing that.
Right.
And then we see some of those same people in the hospital when they're sick and they can't just fix it with eating an orange or eating some garlic or putting some sage and sea moss together. You know what I'm saying? Like, and just magically fixing it, and they can't breathe or whatever. And they like, yo, can I get the vaccine? And we like, nah, you can't right now. Like, we literally can't give it to you right now. And so I think I understand that there's a huge divide in the concept for like the everyday person. But there are people there are doctors of osteopathic medicine who use physical manipulations all the time. And there are doctors of naturopathic medicine who use natural medicine all the time to treat patients, but they also use Western medicine to treat patients. And I understand that from the layman's perspective, or laywoman's perspective, it's very simple to be like, nah, I'm only going in this direction. But, at the same time, that's not realistic when you get hit with a bullet.
Yeah,
there's no sage tea that's gonna just fix that bullet wound.
Bullet is hot.
You know what I'm saying? So
Thanks.
I think it's and I think there's a perspective difference too that the average person does not understand. Right now, I'm on a pediatric cardiac intensive care unit right now at Children's Hospital in New Orleans.
Oh, Lord.
And a lot of those kids, man, they are really bad off. Like they on ventilators and, with something called ECMO where their blood is being circulated outside of their body and coming back in. Yeah, they really off. Tell me what natural medicine is gonna fix that.
Listen, put my church thing up and move.
You know what I'm saying? And people with really healthy children who just like walking around every day, they don't understand. But if they talk to those parents, they in a whole different ball game. And I think you just need to understand that. As much as we want to be like, yo, it's only one way or the other way, nothing in life is like that.
Yeah, definitely. I always say there's a lot of gray. Like, people like to be black and white, but it's not that simple.
Nah.
It's not that simple. So even going into our eating habits as Black people, do you think that our eating habits are just passed down bad habits, or they are hereditary?
I don't know about the hereditary component, but I do know that like habits and decision making just comes from exposure a lot of times, right? It comes from decision making, habit forming, and when you think about it like that, obviously where you come from has a huge, impact on what you decide to eat.
Thanks.
And that's me included. I'm not the skinniest guy on the planet, but I actually
we look healthy. They look a mess.
Yeah,
like
but it's funny because I actually just started this program called Noom, which like really focuses on the psychology of eating and just rethinking the way that we eat. And shout out to Noom. I ain't getting paid for this, but shout out to y'all because y'all really have changed my life. And it's really changed the way that I even think about eating. And even as a physician, this is something that physicians struggle with. I don't know the statistics, but I know that there's a fair representation of unhealthy physicians. There's a fair representation of unhealthy people in general. And a lot of that comes from decision making when it comes down to eating, and also accessibility. When you think about marginalized communities and you think about food deserts, it's like what other choice do I have? Right. Even if I do want to eat healthy, if the only food that's close to me is a corner store, what do you want? Yeah, like what am I going to eat? I gotta eat. Like I don't have a ride to get to the store, and this is all I got, and I don't have that much money due to a whole bunch of structural racism issues. Like what do you want me to do? And so I think it's a multifactorial, very complicated conundrum, and we have to really look at it from that perspective. I think it's really important for us to reevaluate the way we were taught to eat as children and young adults. But I also think that when you become a young adult and you find yourself upwardly mobile and moving up in society, you can reevaluate the way that you eat. You can reevaluate the way that you live. You know, a lot of things that we do now our parents didn't do.
Facts.
You know, the way we raise our children is extremely different from the way that we were raised.
Fact.
And so, you know, if that's the case, then we could do the same thing with food.
Fact. I believe that. Seeing everybody was in an uproar, switching it up to, you know, saying on medicine. People were in an uproar about Joe Biden giving out crack pipes. So I was like, I think it's harm prevention.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Can you know, specify or explain that a little bit for people who may not understand
actually, there's an amazing addiction psychiatrist by the name of Dr. Ayanna Jordan, who's over at New York University School of Medicine in New York. And I've been following her career since I first started medical school, just because I was really inspired by her as a black physician, but also as a black addiction psychiatrist.
Right.
And I think it's because of where I come from and the way that we ostracize people with substance abuse disorder, people who utilize substances that are deemed by society oftentimes as just really deleterious, and there are deleterious effects to a lot of those substances. But she posted something and I reshared it in my stories, and it was talking about how people, I think it was people who use heroin or meth still deserve food and shelter.
Fact.
And I think as a society we kind of have this what Dr. Mindy Fullilove calls as an ecology of inequality, where it's always a greater and lesser than. So you could look at people who are using substances and say, oh, they're lesser than me. And so the way that I talk about them and the way I talk towards them is very demeaning, very mean, and very, very disrespectful. And I think what the president has done, and what a lot of different organizations are doing, I mean, they've been doing this in California for a minute.
Right.
Yeah, is that they thinking about how do you create safe environments for people who are addicted. And what's funny is that, you know, at one point, smoking cigarettes was like a very
frowned upon
thing.
It
was a frowned upon thing, right? And people are extremely addicted to cigarettes.
Man, my stepdad just had surgery. He still smokes the doggone
Yeah.
This is for you. Put the goddamn cigarette down. Sick of you. He literally had open heart surgery, and people are still addicted to cigarettes.
Yeah, and so, you know, but they are literally addicted to cigarettes.
Yes.
And it's funny the perspective and the way that we speak about people who utilize heroin or methamphetamines as opposed to people who utilize cigarettes. Those people are addicted. They are 1,000, and it is. This is my own personal perspective, but I cannot even be in the presence of people who smoke cigarettes. It really bothers my lungs, and I think it absolutely stinks and it's terrible. But I also, you know, understand that there's a chemical imbalance going on in their brain and in their body that literally they have an uncontrollable, insatiable desire to smoke a cigarette. But that same insatiable desire is also in crack cocaine, in methamphetamines, in heroin, and so many other things.
It's the same thing.
It's
like,
the exact
to me,
same thing.
It's all the same. Like I said, like my one of my babysitters, she was addicted to crack. She was my babysitter. Like, it was my grandmother's one of her closest friends. So it's like I never looked at people who had an addiction outside of they just have an addiction. Like, sweetest people I've ever had conversations with will give you anything they could. Like, you know, everybody has, well, there's like pros and cons to any person who's addicted to something, but I'm just saying in the grand scheme of things, like, I've never looked at somebody who had an addiction like, oh, I don't know if I want to be around them, because I'm a little bit more comfortable being around them than somebody, you know, like, so it's just like, and I think it's also odd how the opioid epidemic became a whole big thing, right? Like, it seems like they just commercialized, like, oh, people are whatever on opioids, and it's just like, bro, people have been it's all to me, it's all the same thing. Like, it's always been this big thing or this bad thing or hurting the community or whatever. So it's like, why now? You ain't gotta talk about it if you don't want to, but I'm gonna say it. Why now? Speak out. Say it. Tell me, because I want to know. Like, I want to know. It's all the same to me.
Yeah.
Is there anything that's new happening with you? I know you have your big move. How is that going?
Yeah, we trying to figure it out, man.
Yeah.
You know, my wife and I are supposed to go up to Indiana soon, and we're really excited about it. We're trying to figure out.
Right.
Yeah, you know, in all honesty, I went there and I wanted to go there because I love the people I was dealing with up there.
Okay.
I'm a very, I'm a fill out the people type of person.
Yes, you know how we rock.
And if I rock with the people, it don't really matter what the environment look like.
Right.
Just because I know I'm gonna be me anywhere I go. So
that's the facts.
And you
come on, black man.
And you gonna get the people. You gonna get the people. I mean, they got black people in Indianapolis, and trust me, they didn't came out the woodworks when they found out I was coming. So you know, so they know I'm coming, and they trust me. They making sure that everything is straight and I'm good, and I can still go out at night. So people know the word is in the streets that I'm coming. But I'm super excited to be going. My wife is super excited. My kids are super excited. We got some things to figure out in terms of moving, but we got a ton of help. We got a ton of help.
That's good, because that was my next question. Like, how does it feel to be embraced so much by everybody? Like, everybody is like, you literally, this is a win for us. This is our win. It ain't just about you. We don't care about you anymore. This is us. We all rock.
Exactly.
So it's like, how does that make you feel to be embraced by everybody so much?
That was the goal, man. You know, the goal always was and always will be is that to move the culture forward. It's funny because on Indiana University's Triple Board Instagram website, they got like 1,000 likes and like hundreds of comments from people saying I'm proud of you, black man. And I'm like, yo, I'm pretty sure this institution ain't never seen this a day in their life.
Never. You know we shake stuff up.
Yeah, exactly. But I also realized that like it put them on notice. Like, oh, y'all need to realize who's coming.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's some people who know like they got this boy on their prayer list.
I only got one request. When you walk in there, I need a speaker with mystical. Here I go. I need you to put on the shoulder, walk in and video it and send it to me because I got you, sis. Like we gotta bring ourselves all the way. Why not? Because why not?
That first time I walk in there with that white coat on, I'ma definitely have that here I go coming through there.
Yes.
They got a Kendrick Lamar song, and he said "Get God on the phone."
Yeah.
And you know, I love that song because I'll be like, the day I walk through there, they better get God on the phone.
Nah, for real
he gonna
though.
be the only person to calm me down when I walk through them doors.
Literally, you are the walking our ancestors' wildest dreams.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's literally what you are. And I'm just so
that's the
proud
goal.
of you.
It's everything, man. It's everything.
Yes.
The comments, it's so many people, Grammy winners, and just like really amazing people reached out to me and was like, yo, we did that. Like we did that.
Yes.
You know, only black men in the country to match in the Triple Board. It's crazy.
Yes.
And it's even more history. Once it's confirmed, I think it'll be even more history. I just think it means everything. It's funny because so many people in the black community know what matching is, and they know what triple board is now.
Okay, yeah, we ain't never heard.
This ain't even
triple double. Who you mean?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, it's dope, and it's funny because I go all over New Orleans now. You know, when I'm off, and I actually was in Dragos on Saturday or Sunday, and this guy, I was walking out, and this old black man, he probably like 60, 70 years old, was like, "Young man, is that you?" He's like, "Man, I gotta get a photo with you. I gotta show you to my grandson. I told him I was gonna meet you sooner or later." You know, and all that. Yeah, but you know the black community, boy, they gonna big up you.
What?
They gonna, he did that.
That's my cousin. You probably got so many cousins.
I got family members for life, man. Some people call me crying, you know, FaceTime me, send me videos in my DMs crying on the rooftops, and you know, it struck a lot of black men. That moment struck a lot of black men because they ain't never heard a black man say that about himself in front of all those people. So
exactly, and stand on it and got the credentials. You can't tell us nothing no more. We credentialed up over here.
You can't
say nothing.
Nah.
So last question: if you had, because they've been giving out these big budgets for medicine and medical. So if you had a $30 million budget for medicine, what would you do with it?
Oh man, it's an on the spot question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
30 million?
Yes.
30 million ain't that much money when it comes down to medicine.
Okay, you put it into perspective for me.
Yeah, 30 million ain't that much money.
Okay.
But I would tell you this much. Whatever I would do, it would be specific for the city of New Orleans.
Fact.
I could tell you what I would do with $30 million. What I would do with $30 million is I would build a school here in New Orleans. And let it be run by the 15 White Coast leadership, and literally let it be the starting ground, a high school, let it be the starting ground for minorities in New Orleans to become doctors, and doctors alone. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with becoming a PA or an MP, or any of that. No, but I'm talking about we trying to put you in a pipeline to go from this high school to Xavier University to go and then go to medical school.
Right, that's fine.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's we want more black doctors. Like at the end of the day,
bro. Let me tell you something, because I went to the doctor's office one time and one of them colonizing cunts, Jesus, sorry, asked me if what I was saying was true. Are you sure that's what you, ma'am, I pretty much am in the body. Yeah. I know what I'm feeling. Don't tell me what I ain't feeling. But I felt like if the doctor had looked like me, it would have
been very different.
Exactly. They would have been more receptive. Exactly. Yeah. So yes, black boys, please. But that's also my dream too. I really want to open up a school here in New Orleans. I definitely do. It'd probably be like between the ages, well, the middle school age, but I respect that. Like, we definitely need more doctors. We definitely need a more push for just anything STEM, like any sciences and technology, mathematics. We need it all. We need. Listen, we love rap, we love hip hop, but it's enough. Enough is enough. Doctors, nurses.
We need more black doctors.
We need it. We need us to attend to us. Period.
Yeah.
And on that note, this was a good talk. Thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Of course. No problem at all.
Yes, I like this. Yes.